and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We have a rather lengthy agenda for this evening's meeting. And I've asked Joy to give me a sign someplace along the way so that when it's time for a break, we can take a break. And now, do we have? Okay.
Just to let folks know, Zoom is working. Apparently our projector is not working.
There it
There
goes.
it is. There we are. And who do we have joining us outside?
Good to have nobody.
Nobody? I see.
Currently present, we have Jack Durham and Marianne Lowenthal.
Okay.
Marianne Lowenthal.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody settled? Okay, Zoom working.
Yes.
Okay, good. First order of business is additions or changes to the agenda. I'm sorry. Items may be added to the agenda in accordance with section 54954.2.B.2 of the Government Code, Brown Act, upon determination by 2/3 vote of the members of the legislative body present at the time of the meeting, or if less than 2/3 of the members are present, a unanimous vote of those members present that there is a need to take immediate action, and the need for action came to the attention of the McKinleyville Community Services District after the agenda was posted. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
There are no additions or changes to the agenda.
Thank you.
President, a point of order, I have a question. This may not be how to approach this. I have my invitation to the presidential inauguration sitting there on the table. It's quite an amazing deal. I wasn't able to go, but if anybody would be interested in looking at that, it's there on the table, and it's all of the inauguration, the pass, the parking permit, everything. Is that something that is okay for me just to say that and people can look at it if they want, or is it something that I need to ask you to add to our agenda?
I don't think it needs to be added to the
No,
agenda.
and you shouldn't have said, and I don't think you should say anything about it either. Oh, it's too late.
Okay. I just thought it was cool
Duly
and
noted.
whatever.
With that non-addition to the agenda. What a call for approval of the agenda.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
Second,
All those in favor, please. Joey, would you call the roll?
Director Bender,
yes.
President Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Aye.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Next item is closed session discussion. At any time during the regular session, the board may adjourn to a closed session to consider existing or anticipated litigation, liability claims, real property negotiations, license and permit determinations, threats to security, public employee appointments, personnel matters, evaluations and discipline, labor negotiations, or to discuss with legal counsel matters within the attorney-client privilege. We have no item for a closed session this evening. Public hearings. These are items of a quasi-judicial or legislative nature. Public comments relevant to these proceedings are invited. We do not have a public hearing scheduled. Our next item on the agenda is public comment and written communications. Any person may address the board at this time upon any subject not identified on this agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the McKinleyville Community Services District. However, any matter that requires action will be referred to staff for a report of action at a subsequent committee or board meeting. As to matters on the agenda, an opportunity will be given to address the board when the matter is considered. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Letters should be used for complex issues. I understand that we have a public comment. In fact, a very nice one. John?
Yeah, I'm John Friedenbach, the current general manager of Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District. Sure, you know, Humboldt Bay is your wholesale water provider. I'm going to be retiring in April, hold the applause. And more importantly, I'm here to introduce my replacement, who has been on board for the last month, and we're doing a three and a half month transition. And that is Michiko Mares. And I brought the press release that we issued back in November, in case you missed it. And with that, I'd like to introduce Michiko.
Good evening, McKinleyville Community Services District Directors and staff. It's a pleasure to meet all of you this evening. I've met several of you over the last, actually, couple of months. I met a couple of you at the Aqua meeting in December. So again, it's a pleasure to meet all of you, and I look forward to working with all of you. As one of our wholesale customers, you're very important to the district, and I look forward to a collaborative relationship over the next several years. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming here and letting us see you and appreciate the job that you're taking on.
Thank you. It's always good to have a face to the name as we build these relationships.
Yes. And we hope that this smile continues.
Oh, it will.
So I have a request. I've been on this committee with Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District.
Dave, turn your mic on. We can't hear you.
Sorry, is that better?
Much.
So I'm on this committee, that's the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District Muni Water Task Force. And in 2 years, we haven't met, so I would love to have a meeting.
Yeah, I can address that. The Water Task Force is, as you know, an advisory committee to Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District's Board of Directors. It meets as needed as important, high-level issues come up in front of the district. We are, in fact, going to be scheduling a meeting of the task force to specifically talk about our in-stream flow dedication for our water rights that we have recently submitted to the water board, and water board staff is processing that. We also will have a special board meeting workshop next Monday, February 10th. I believe the time is 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Our agenda for that will be posted this Friday. And specifically, we're going to talk about the 1707 petition that we filed with the water board on 2 of our water rights.
Great, thanks.
Very,
Try to be there.
very timely that you would bring that up.
Yes.
Welcome and congratulations on your retirement. You'll find out that retirement just means you work nonstop with less pay, which I unfortunately found out a few years back. Relative to the subject that Director Couch brought up, I was on that, and I am the alternate as well, but I was on that for many years, and we had meetings. Thought you were the representative for the budget, if you will, at that time. And Carol was the GM. And we spent a lot of time and ferreted out lots of really valuable, not only information, but direction for Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District. And we really appreciate all that effort. Many people in our community do not understand the rate structure, the pass-throughs, and the history of where we're at now. And I appreciate all of your efforts in keeping our rates as low as possible and supporting the concept of expanding your services, which is one of the things that we developed through those meetings, which isn't really going to solve our water volume and financial issues, because as you know, we could service all of Humboldt County and still not make up for the lack of economic support that those pulp mills did for us. But nonetheless, we're working on that. You're working on that. And now we're into a situation that I support. Some people may not, but I support 100% is the connection of Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District services north, past Little River on up through West Haven, up to the Trinidad Rancheria, and hopefully someday to the city of Trinidad. That's a big deal, and you're coming on to this at this exciting time in our future. And I really appreciate, we talked about that at Aqua, and it's an exciting time, and we're very happy to have you on board to help steward this movement. And it has bumps along the way, I'm sure, but I am at least. I hope the rest of the board is as well. I can't speak for the entire board, but I am 100% in support and will do anything I can to help facilitate that. And as that moves forward and becomes successful, let's think about Lolita as a concept, and all through the Bayside area up into where Old Arcata Road connects into Myrtle Avenue. All of that area, just like West Haven and that area, will benefit immensely environmentally by utilizing this good water that we have in abundance and allowing the on-ground, in the environment water to stay there, which is a huge benefit. So I just bring that up. I think that's important. It's important to me. I hope to our board as well, and you. And very, very nice to have conversations with you and get your viewpoint on things. And absolutely anything that I can do, hopefully our board as well can do for you. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Great.
Welcome to both of you. It was nice getting a chance to meet you the other night at the Icebreaker. John, thank you so much for your service. I very much appreciate the continuity and stability that you brought when you became the general manager. Your eye and understanding of the money helped us out a lot as municipal customers, and we were going through some pretty tough times there when we had to raise our rates to make allowances for losing the industrial customers. So thank you very much for that. I just hope the people in our community understand how important that was, what we did as a municipal group in having you in the leadership position for that. So thank you very much for that. And I too just want to say that I think that we've got an awesome resource And the more we can utilize that water and take the strain off of our other surface waters sources and our groundwater sources in the area will do nothing but, help the environment and create a resiliency that, a lot of communities don't have right now. So, I too would like to voice my support for, distributing our water throughout the rest of, the Bay Area, the Humboldt Bay Area anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Stay dry on the way home.
You don't have to leave. This is gonna be an amazing meeting.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have lots of fun.
All
Good night.
hours of it.
Yeah, well, shall we move on to the next item then, please?
Thank you, Mr.
Next item is the consent calendar. And there's some verbiage to be read and I don't have it, so I'm just going to say what it is. Items on the consent calendar are generally considered to be non-controversial. And as a consequence, they are presented for a vote of approval as a block. However, if there's any item on the consent calendar that somebody wishes to have us consider independently, we will do so, and we'll remove the item from the consent list and place it next on the agenda. So, with that, is there anyone desiring to remove any item from the consent calendar? And the items are all listed on page 2 of our minutes, and the rest of you are sitting there not with with our agenda. But they are: consider approval of draft minutes of the last 2 board meetings, consider approval of December draft treasurer's report, compliance with the state double check valve law, consider approval of the First Amendment to the agreement between McKinleyville Union School District and McKinleyville Community Services District for the provision of staff to use the 21st Century Community Learning Center after school program. And item 5 is consider approval of negotiated 3-year compensation contract with the district employees. And item 6 is review the 2024 Integrated Pest Management Plan annual report. Does anybody desire to have any of those items removed from the consent calendar and placed on the regular agenda? Hearing none, then I will call for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move to approve the consent calendar, item D on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Then I'll call for a vote on the motion. Joy, would you please call the roll?
Director Bender,
Yes.
President Beitman,
Yes?
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item E on the agenda is, as we move into continued and new business, the first item on that is presentation of a Community Builder Award to Mad River Rotary. Along with that, the thanks to the Rotary for all that they have done. Do we have a representative from Mad River Rotary? Tim?
Hope it was better.
And just so you know, we don't find people here.
That's good. I might throw out a couple.
The question is, what do we have to present as an award? Pat, do we have an award?
We do. Thank you, President Beitman. The Community Builder Award is an award the district presents to local individuals, businesses, and organizations for their volunteer service, sponsorship, promotion, promotion of programs and events, outstanding service in the interest of the district, and for other considerations significant to McKinleyville's quality of life. District staff has identified Mad River Rotary as the recipient of the 2024 Community Builder Award. The Mad River Rotary Club of McKinleyville was established in 1974. Since then, it has been a key partner with MCSD, the community of McKinleyville, Humboldt County, the state of California, and the world. Mad River Rotary has assisted the district on several projects, including the construction of the sheriff's substation, a new sound system and scoreboard for the activity center, equipment for the teen center kitchen, as well as active participation in fundraising for the Boys and Girls Club. Each year, Mad River Rotary plays a key role in organizing Pony Express Days, a Thanksgiving lunch for the senior center, and scholarships for McKinleyville High seniors. They host an annual lunch celebrating the top 10% of McKinleyville High seniors by grade point average and supports student exchanges with high school students from around the world. So staff recommends that the board listen to staff's presentation, air questions, take public comment, and present the Community Builder Award for 2024 to Mad River Rotary.
Thank you. Appreciate that. This year we are going to, last year we did $12,000 in scholarships to McKinleyville High students. 5 of them went to university-bound students and 1 of them went to a trade school-bound. We're going to replicate that this year. The disbursement, might go more or less depending on who applies as far as the university versus the trade students this year. We've also been involved in a few other projects, such as we've been involved in the skate park. We've been involved in the new BMX park that's going to go in, North Coast Stand Down, supporting our veterans. So we're quite involved in the local community in that way. Rotary International is a large organization, about 1.2 million members strong in over 200 countries, 45,000 clubs. Locally, we have the McKinleyville Club, Mad River Rotary. There's 2 clubs in Arcata, 3 in Eureka, 1 in Ferndale, 1 in Fortuna, 1 up in Crescent City, and our district goes all the way down to the Bay Area. So we're also heavily involved in the International Youth Exchange Program. This year we have a girl in from Finland, and that's always a really enjoyable project to be involved in, that youth exchange. Last year we had a girl in from Japan. We hosted her at our home, and we sent a student out from Mac High to Japan. And we've had a girl in from Chile, I think the year before that. We're sending out our next student. The reveal for where she gets to go, we don't know yet. She'll get to find out next month at our big reveal party, when all the kids that are going to be sent out get together for a big reveal party. Normally that's down south, but we're going to do it in Eureka this year. So like I said earlier, I prepared about 60 minutes worth of, okay, no, that's all I got, but thank you guys.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say, didn't you guys donate the bocce ball
I don't know, did we? I don't remember.
courts we have?
Yeah,
I think so.
we've been involved in many projects over the years. So,
I played on them, so it's important to me.
oh, good. All right. Well, appreciate that. Thank you. So, any questions, comments? All right. We meet, by the way, if anybody is interested in our Rotary Club, we meet at noon on Thursdays at the Luz Mila's Mexican restaurant here in McKinleyville. So if you're curious and interested, come by and see us. Oh, and we've been doing live music to open up our meetings this year. So that's been fun, bringing in local musicians to kind of liven things up a bit.
Really? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can
Tim.
we, actually, Tim, before you take off, can we grab some photos, please?
There we go. Jim, before you leave, I'd like to make one comment. And this is a statement of gratitude to Rotary International. My career, before I took over this wonderful job, was to be an international business educator. And that fortunately, they took me all over the world. And one of the absolutely great organizations that I had the privilege of dealing with, although it was in other areas as well, was the Rotary Club in Taipei, Taiwan. And I have never met such an active organization in terms of international education and international relationships. They're just a fabulous, fabulous working organization. And we had a standing joke that in order to become a member of this great group of graduates that we had, one had to have at one time in the past been the president of the local Rotary. This was a source of great, great, great pride and great appreciation. So that level of community involvement obviously carries all around the world. And I thank you for it. Okay. Thanks. And continuing on with the wonderful, happy part of our agenda for the evening.
No. Just so everybody knows, I'm not sick. I've got this COPD deal that's getting worse as I get older, and I'm not sick at all. It's just tedious BS, and I apologize for it.
You just spent too much time around horses, that's all.
My horse's ass?
I don't mind. Okay, next item on our agenda is to be I suggest carried out by Samantha Howard, our finance director. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn the microphone over to Samantha and let her carry forward for us.
Thank you. Each year, McKinleyville Community Services District employees vote for Employee of the Year. This award and recognition was started by Norman Chopay in 2009, and a full list of past recipients is provided in this packet. The Employee of the Year is a person who has brought about significant positive change, eliminates obstacles in achieving district goals and objectives, is resourceful, contributes constructively, is innovative, exceeds expectations, inspires others, proactively identifies and resolves challenges. The Employee of the Year is chosen through a secret ballot by their peers as judged upon merit. The 2024 Employee of the Year is Evie Young, and she's here. Evie's natural leadership abilities have been a tremendous asset to the district. During a period of significant staff changes, including the onboarding of a new finance director and the retirement of 2 long-term finance administrative employees, Evie provided stability and focus to the front office. Evie's efforts ensured that MCSD ratepayers experienced minimal disruption during these transitions. Evie has refined, streamlined, and updated processes significantly, improving the overall efficiency of the district. Evie consistently goes above and beyond to facilitate clear communication and connection between departments, ensuring everyone remains on the same page. She is known for her kindness, her reliability, and is a trusted colleague to everyone at the district. Evie will hold this distinction for the 2025 calendar year, with a new Employee of the Year crowned at the end of 2025. And we do have an award and a gift for Evie, and I believe we want to do pictures as well. So we recommend, obviously, recognize Evie as Employee of the Year and participate in the presentation of this award to her.
Thank you, Samantha. Before we do the picture taking, I'd invite people to say wonderful things to Evie. If nobody else does, I will. Evie, this is a truly cherished award. And it's especially so because the award is voted by your peers, not by people from outside. They know you. They know what it's like to work with you. They know what it's like to have your leadership and direction. You know what, they know what a difference you make in their lives and in their work. So it's of all possible awards, this is probably the one that how do I say, the judges are most serious about. And so I want to express my congratulations to you and hope that you see this as a truly cherished vote on the part of your colleagues and friends at MCSD. So with that, do we have, Samantha, do you have you prepared a good, so, oh, go ahead.
Evie, congratulations. I know that this award means that you'll get to park up in front now and you'll get a couple of days off here and there, or day off. I can't remember exactly what it was, but also I think the biggest part of this reward is as President Beitman said, recognition by your peers of what an outstanding job you're doing. And you came to the district at a time when things are pretty stable and streamlined, and then all of a sudden people started getting moved around and people retired, and you've stepped up and done an amazing job and helped the district run very smoothly. I'm sure behind the scenes there were a few hiccups here and there, but from the outside looking in, it looked like it just happened flawlessly. So thank you very much for you stepping up and taking the responsibility and the position that you've taken at the district now. And thank you so much for everything that you're doing as far as the customer service is still identical to what it was when I first started working for the district. So I'm sure you being the leadership there have a little bit to do with that. So thank you very much for keeping that culture alive in the front office.
Anyone else?
Anyway. Ditto to what Greg said. And on a personal level, I want to especially thank you for how you manage my foibles, all of my confusions, and sort that out for me. And of course, as you know, I have a few hats that I wear, and I have bills for other entities that I try to take care of, and sometimes it's quite confusing for me as well. And you sort that out. I really appreciate that, and the rodeo club members appreciate it. And I could go on, but I think that's sufficient. Thank you, and we're very lucky to have you doing what you're doing for us. So thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much for your service to the district, and keep doing what you're doing and enjoy that parking spot.
Well, I was going to say the same thing, and I hope you're not getting close to retirement time, because
No,
you were here as well.
she's a
good.
she's a teenager. Don't
Well,
worry.
yeah. Well, anyway, thanks for everything.
I actually wouldn't mind thanking Evie for everything she does. And she is a great, great addition to the front office and pretty much runs that. No offense to Samantha at all. But I also wanted to point out, for the record, I just heard the board give you 2 days off. So, yeah, so no matter what Samantha says.
I wanted to add one more thing.
That's so that she doesn't lock me because I'm always late with the water bill.
It's really important for a small community, a tight community, for cohesion. Dave was such a kind of a unifier for the community. And it's so nice that you are in that position because you know this community. You know everybody and you're part of the community and the ability to relate to all of that is really important. You know, you bring somebody into a community that just doesn't know anybody and try to put them in the position to deal with it. It's not as, they may do just as good a job, but it's not as cohesive for the community. And that's important to a district, that the community feels that who they're dealing with cares about them and understands, and it isn't just a, here, put a stamp on a deal and here's your receipt kind of a deal. So that's a big deal. So thank you for that.
Joey.
Director Mayo makes a great point, and as Dave started to rumble about retirement, it was often a thought in the front office of, oh my gosh, how are we going to replace Dave? Who could possibly replace Dave? And then we hired Evie, and I had the privilege of training her and teaching her the things that I knew, and she very quickly became better than me, which is awesome, and she continues to be better than me. And she's the perfect person for this spot. She holds people accountable. She encourages her employees in the front office, and I'm proud to call her a coworker and a friend. Good job, Evie.
I just want to say I voted for Evie because she scares me. So that's all. I just want to get that out there. I wanted that on the minutes. Thank you.
Don't mumble. Know what the hell.
I'm gonna just keep it real short and sweet because I know Evie hates all of the attention, but definitely not offended by what Pat said. If I didn't have Evie in that front office, being the new finance director would be way, way harder. She has definitely helped guide me in my new position, and the relationship that we have built together is just, I'm so, so grateful for that. So Evie, I really, really appreciate you. I've told you that every day, but good job and keep it up. And now we're gonna take your picture.
Use the microphone, please. I don't know who's online.
I want to jump in here first, so I'm not the only one at the table who doesn't say something nice. Let Evie hold that over my head. As last year's recipient, I couldn't be more excited to hand it off to Evie than anyone else. So she's great. She's made working each department working together. She's made everything so much more smooth and cohesive, and the relationships are better. And it just, the overall, like, not that, things are terrible or anything, but it just, the district feels like a really great place to work in right now. And I think that we've been putting in work the last few years to get here, and I can't wait to just keep pushing forward with this and bringing all the departments together. Whereas very much when I started, it felt very much siloed, that each department was kind of their own thing. Where now we're definitely, in my opinion, a much more cohesive district that works together, and we want to see each department succeed and work and help them in any way that we can. And she is a strong force behind that. So I think she's extremely deserving of this award.
Thank you, everyone. Eddie, do you have some prepared remarks? Sorry.
Is this on? Am I close enough? Okay. Closer? All right. So I absolutely hate public speaking. So thank you guys for throwing me up here and making me do this. I really appreciate it. At the end of the day, I took a massive leap to come to the district. I had worked at the same job for 22 years. I loved it. I ran 3 of their divisions, and I needed a change, and I was terrified to make it. And when I applied for this job, I wasn't sure that it was the right thing to do, but it's the greatest thing I've ever done. And the reason for that is the people that I work with. Joey was spot on when he said the talk about training people and learning and like building with them. I couldn't have done this without him. He was great with helping me out and working through things. Pat has been an amazing boss. I appreciate him. I appreciate his kindness and willing to listen to everything that I have to say. Kirsten, you have been probably my closest ally and friend here. You opened your arms and welcomed me in, and I loved that. Samantha, your willingness to take a look at what the front office is doing and incorporate that into your job has been huge for the district. And I really appreciate that about you. And I don't know if you know that, but I couldn't ask for a better boss at this point. With James. Oh, James. So I'm gonna skip James. No, the thing about James and that I love about James is I can take something to him and he finds a solution to it. If I don't know the answer, he is 100% willing to help me out. And that is not something you find in everyday people. I'm gonna come over here to this side of the room. Leslie, you and I very much didn't have a lot of interaction the first few years that I worked there. This last year, we have definitely grown a lot closer. I appreciate your leadership and your knowledge and your willingness to share that with me. And then at the end of the day, these other two people sitting next to her, Laurel and Benjamin, they're my right-hand man. I couldn't do my job without them. So when I accept this award, I hope that they know that you're the reason I got it. I can't do this by myself. So I greatly appreciate you and I'm super happy to be here. So thank you.
Anybody that can find something good to say about James is quite a diplomat. I mean, thank you for saying
Yeah.
nice things about.
I wrote it down for her before she came here tonight.
Okay,
Uh-oh,
Samantha,
is it picture time again?
do you have something for Abby? Okay, good. Now's the time.
No. I just put a thing there. Somebody got me there.
Yeah, you got hacked.
Something. No, I did not. And I put a thing on my Facebook thing to tell everybody. Is there a better way to tell people not to fight on that?
No, that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
Just update your
I don't
status.
send friend requests and I don't answer any. Ever.
I'd like to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is to discuss and consider approval of resolution 2025-01. And Pat, would you be willing to present that for us?
Yes, thank you, President Beitman. So as the board is aware, the district has been working closely with Green Diamond and Humboldt County Resource Conservation District to prepare a vegetative treatment program through a grant from CAL FIRE. We've finished the project-specific analysis, and I'm not going to read through this whole document, but or the entire staff note. But I do want to kind of summarize. Right now, with this, the CEQA document for the Cal VTP grant on the community forest. The notice of determination has been approved by Humboldt County Resource Conservation District, who is the CEQA lead agency for this project. Since the project is on a portion of our land, we also need to do CEQA for it. It has already been filed with the clearinghouse in the Humboldt County Recorder's Office. And the following determination related to the PSA addendum have been made. The project will have a significant effect on the environment. It's vegetative clearing, so it's going to have an impact on the environment. The McKinleyville Vegetative Treatment Project PSA addendum, State Clearinghouse number 2019-012-052, was prepared for this project pursuant to the provisions of CEQA. The Cal VTB program EIR sufficiently analyzes and addresses potential environmental impacts from the project, and the project will not trigger any of the criteria requiring additional CEQA review pursuant to the CEQA guidelines, section 15162. The mitigation measures and standard project requirements from the Cal VTP program EIR were made a condition of the approval of the project, and there's no new project-specific mitigation measures are required. And the implementation of the applicable Cal VTP program EIR mitigation measures and standard project requirements will be monitored and reported pursuant to the mitigation monitoring and reporting program that was adopted for this project. The previous statement of overriding considerations in the Cal VTB program EIR was reaffirmed and adopted for this project by the Humboldt County Resource Conservation District. And these findings were made pursuant to the provisions of the state CEQA guidelines, section 15091. I do also want to point out that we are pursuing a grant to implement this program, and we won't do it unless we get that grant money. So, financial analysis, it should be a neutral for the district. So with that, staff recommends the board review the information, discuss, take public comment, and approve resolution 2025-01, which adopts the findings and statement of overriding considerations for the project specific analysis and addendum, agrees to the partnership with Green Diamond and Humboldt County Resource Conservation District on the project, and directs the general manager to file a notice of determination with the state clearinghouse and the Humboldt County clerk recorder within 5 business days.
Thank you. Are there comments? Other than thank you for doing all of this. Greg.
Yeah, first, I'd like to thank staff for putting this item together. It's quite voluminous, but it answers a lot of questions. It's got a lot of moving parts, and I just want to thank staff for the diligence that they did in putting this item together and presenting us with the information. Every single question that popped into my head as I was reading through it got answered somewhere along the lines as I was doing it, as you can tell by the notes I made, and then had to scratch them out because it answered. So anyway, thank you very much for doing that. Now, to get on my soapbox, projects like this are very important, as we can see what happened in Southern California. This project, if we're able to fund it and get it completed, will create a defensible space between our green belts and our residential areas, which are very important and very much needed in all communities that abut to forest lands in the state of California. So I just want to thank staff for taking the onus to step up and go through the work necessary so that we are being good stewards of the land. And if we can get this done, for hardly nothing but staff's grief and toil, it'll be awesome. But it's something that necessarily needs to be done. And if you, as you read through this, you find out that not only are we creating defensive spaces, but there'll be defensive areas all the way up to the ridge to protect Fieldbrook and McKinleyville from ending up in one large conflagration. So it's very well thought out, and I'd like to thank Green Diamond also for taking the initiative to do this, so that we stand a fighting chance if there is, a wildland fire in the area. So thank you.
Yeah, Greg, thank you. I ditto on everything you said, and just for the board's knowledge, I think probably most of you know, but we're working a bullet point on this issue relative to what happened in the LA fires, the funding mechanisms, the legislation that's going to come through for that is going to be huge. And in that process, it'll be a process that will have off ramps or open gates for other communities all up and down California. Our community forest and our needs, our urban limit lines, our buffers, our fire protection buffers, all of that will be in the mix in these legislations and funding sources that are going to come. And I have spoke to Senator McGuire on this issue. I've spoke to Congressman Huffman. I'll be meeting with our new Senator Schiff when I'm in DC in February. Oh, well, this is February in a week for the next 3 weeks, specifically supporting language developed in the processes that will allow us to plug into these funding streams and these new policies that are going to develop. And we also, as Director Bender points out quite often, we have a help me with our species. I don't know our species. Our salmon, our salmonoids, our salmonids, our salmonids. This is a headwater that we are representing as well. So there's quite a bit of markers that we hit, and I think we're going to. God, I hate to always be a mercenary bastard, but I am. So that's just the way it is. The horrible stuff that happened in LA, and I'm not going to go into whose fault it is. I certainly have my opinions on that. But as this unfolds, if we can keep focused on our perspective, it can be a benefit to us, and I think it will be. And I want you all to know that I'll be working very hard to press the issues relative to that in our legislative processes. So I appreciate the work on this, and seems like small potatoes, but actually it's a big damn deal. And so anyway, that's my 2 cents on the deal.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for stressing the importance of this project, and for the work that you're doing to make sure that it gets the proper recognition in places that can have an influence and have an effect on.
Like I say, if we're not at the table, we're on the table.
We're on the menu. We're on the menu. Oh, okay, thank you. Others, please.
Okay, yeah, I'm very supportive of this. I learned about this well before it was on this board's radar, the Cal VTP project here. It was brought to my attention by a Cal Fire member whom I won't name. And I did a lot of looking at their plans they've done on other projects, and it all looked real good to me. As our McKinleyville Community Forest does contain 3 some audit bearing creeks and streams, I've always been very protective of our blue line creeks. And one thing that I made certain of on numerous occasions that there would not be any herbicides or herbicides used in this process, and I was assured that this isn't going to occur on our property. So, yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, I had my comments too.
Thank
So one of them from going up there is we do have some existing slash piles need to be burned there. And it says we won't be burning in the McKinley Vale. So somehow that needs,
Yep, yeah, they, as part of this, they're going to scatter, the stuff
that's there.
yeah, and that and the burn piles, the big burn piles, actually Green Diamond land still.
Okay. And then as far as the, Green Diamond was talking about targeted herbicide application. So I think our forests will be a good buffer between them and the community if they choose to go use targeted herbicides, because I'm sure people will be outraged at that, but our land will be a buffer between the community if they decide to do that. So that was it for me.
Okay. Pat, would you care for another comment? No. Anybody else? Yes, please.
Thank you, President Beitman, and I just wanted to congratulate and applaud the staff and the board for your work on this. It's a great project, and I think, Greg and Dennis really brought home some of the bigger picture issues there with the LA fires and everything. Also, Director Orsini, I think you did a great job at the MICMAC last week in talking about one of the themes for a future meeting of preparedness, emergency preparedness, in particular fire and earthquake, and these things. And I believe that your board is or your committee is gonna be working on pulling in a bunch of the emergency responders to do a discussion and presentation at a future MICMAC meeting. So I want to applaud you for that as well. Yeah, it's going to create a great buffer for the community, and in particular, those houses that are right up against the forest. It also will have the benefit of hopefully helping those landowners that are close to the forest maintain reasonable fire insurance rates, right? Because if this work gets done, the insurance companies are certainly going to be looking at those things. So it has that added private benefit to those residences in those neighborhoods. So again, I applaud you all for your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Anybody else care to comment on this? Okay. Before I call for the motion, Pat, I want to say once again, thank you to you and to the staff members for the careful, detailed work of putting this thing together. It's no small job, and it's a job that is, at least in all of our minds, extremely important. Thank you.
I'll move item E3 per staff recommendation.
Second.
Joey, would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Director Bender,
Yes.
President Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. The next item is, if I have this correct, is item E4. And this is to discuss and consider approval of resolution 2025-02. Which has to do with the wastewater recycling expansion project, and Pat, would you please present this?
Happily, thank you, President Beitman. As the board is aware, the wastewater recycling expansion project includes the expansion of MCSD's existing water recycling facilities to increase capacity, reduce operational costs, and offset groundwater extraction. The project would not change the capacity at the wastewater treatment facility. The water recycling facilities currently utilize treated wastewater for irrigation, and the proposed project would expand this existing use. The project includes the installation of flood cells, new and replacement of recycled water pipe, 3 pivot irrigation sprinkler systems, and the electrical conduits from the adjacent Fisher Road pump station. An initial planning study considered site capacity, geology, topography, environmental constraints, and the costs, and determined this alternative to be feasible. The initial study proposed mitigated neck deck, includes review of the project preliminary conceptual layouts. A portion of the ISMND is included, and the entire ISMND can be found on the district website or the state clearinghouse website, state clearinghouse number 2024-110602. An ISMND was prepared detailing the project components and potential environmental impacts as required by the California Environmental Quality Act. The ISMND was publicly circulated from November 19th, 2024 to December 19th, 2024, and was filed with the state clearinghouse along with a notice of completion on November 19th. A notice of intent to adopt the ISMND was published in the Mad River Union on November 20th, 2024. One comment was received, and it was from the North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board. The comment letter stated the need for the project to comply with the state recycled water policy, which the district already complies with and will continue to comply with. It also reiterated the need for the application rate of the recycled water to be applied at ergonomic rates to minimize percolation of recycled water below the plant's root zone and at rates which consider nutrient levels to minimize nutrient loading to the groundwater. A response to comment document was developed, which addressed these comments and is included in your board packet. It also has been uploaded to the state clearinghouse. CEQA also requires that when adopting a mitigative deck, the lead agencies shall also adopt a program for reporting on or monitoring the changes, which has either required in the project or been made a condition of approval to mitigate or avoid significant environmental effects. A mitigation monitoring and reporting plan was prepared to satisfy this requirement and is included in your board packet. The MMRP details the mitigation measures contained in the ISMND, who is responsible for implementing the measures, and the timing of the action. The board will need to adopt the MMRP as part of the CEQA process. Again, we're pursuing a grant from the State Water Resources Control Board to implement this project. So again, it should be fiscally neutral to the district. This is the CEQA document for the project that requires the board to review and consider the public comment and response to comment documented in the circulated ISMND, adopt the ISMND for the project, adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting plan for the project, and approve the project. The district is then required to file a notice of determination with the county recorder's office and the state clearinghouse within 5 working days of the decision to adopt the project. So staff recommends the board review the information discussed, take public comment, and approve resolution 2025-02, which adopts the ISMND, the mitigation monitoring reporting plan, and approves the wastewater recycling project.
Thank you, Bev. Do we have any comment, public comment or otherwise?
I've got some word comment, please. Thank you. And again, thank you, staff, for another very well thought out, put together approach for this project. It goes to show you when I went back, one of the first things I did before I even read through it was I wanted to get to the part where the comments and see what the comments were. And I was fairly impressed by what were there, like 4 comments or something like that for the whole so it's a fairly involved project, and to only have 4 comments is pretty good. So I just want to commend staff for doing that. The project itself is it's great. Will be basically, as somebody, as James can attest to, getting out there and moving irrigation pipe. Now that we're going to automate the system, I think it's going to be a lot easier for our staff not to have to move Rainbird sprinklers 2 or 3 times a day and just be able to use these rotating or whatever their automated sprinkler systems. One of the questions I did have was related to as people that are the board might not necessarily be privy to this, but we on the top, on the flood cells on top at the Fisher Ranch, we have the ability to be able to apply at agronomic rates and also to discharge up there beyond agronomic rates. Was there a reason why with this project we didn't try to reserve some of that's same for the flood cells that'll be on the Pelorisi Ranch?
That very much was the State Water Resources Control Board that they
bridge
Are-
too far?
Yeah. Oh, because they want to demonstrate that we aren't impacting groundwater, be able to demonstrate we aren't impacting groundwater, so.
That, dotting i's and crossing t's for their deal, not necessarily ours.
Well,
And you don't have to give.
yeah, their deal is our deal ultimately.
It's just their policy. We've been able to we got a waiver for the top at Fisher. And through negotiation and a little bit arm twisting, we've been able to maintain that. I was hoping that we might be able to get some sort of dispensation on this too. One of the things for the board's understanding that we cannot apply water beyond agronomic rates. So that means if it rains an inch this week, we really can't apply any water anywhere in the areas where you got to apply the agronomic rate, because an inch of rain per week is about what it takes is an agronomic rate. So that would basically say for the next week, you can't. And that could be, and as James can attest to, having to shuffle this around and manage all this water is that, in the fall, when it starts raining, but before the river allows you to discharge to the river, there's times when you need to be able to apply it at above agronomic rates, or we have to hold the water and impound the water until we can discharge to the river. We do have a lot more space now to be able to store water if we need to do that, or polish water. I'm sorry, not store water, polish water, during those times. But, I completely, I get the whole thing. I'm glad we at least tried, and they told us no, better to try and have them tell you no. So anyway, that was really the only question I had about the whole thing. I think the project's gonna be great. It's pretty cool that James and I can attest to, that when we're looking down the road and saying, well, what are we gonna do without the percolation ponds? And the Pelosi Ranch then became a focus, and a lot of hard work went into to negotiating and purchasing the Pelosi Ranch. And now, since then, a lot more work has gone into getting it ready to get to this point. And then once we get the ranch set up to be able to manage the reclaimed water on it, it'll be the fruition of quite a few years of planning. So anyway, I'm glad to see it moving along, and that we're getting part of it, at least part of it, if not the whole thing, paid for with grant funds.
Yes, Scott.
Okay. I was looking at this after listening to Pat say that ideally this process will be cost neutral or revenue neutral to the district upon applying for the grants to pay for it. It is a $5 million project. Upon looking at the cost estimates at attachment 10, I see the breakdown of it, and I have two questions. Number one, is this a must-have project or a good-to-have project? And number two, could this project be scaled according to what we get in terms of grant if the entire amount isn't funded?
Very good questions. As Greg and James can attest, we currently do have irrigation on the Fisher Ranch side. And when we were doing the project planning, the question was, okay, do we just focus on Pelosi and upgrading the Pelosi irrigation system, or do we go for the whole thing? And we decided, yeah, let's try to get the 5 million and do that upgrade to all the irrigation on Fisher and Pelosi. So to answer your question, it is scalable. If we aren't able to get the entire grant, we would focus then just on the Pelosi side and upgrading the irrigation on that side, and then use the existing irrigation system for Fisher.
Okay. Thank you.
And also the pipeline replacement might be something that you could phase in.
Right.
With the replacement of the rest of it, yeah. So there are things that we can that we could do to, if we had to phase it.
Would you apply for all three of those independently then, see what happens?
No, we're actually have submitted once this CEQA document is adopted, it's the last piece of the grant application. So we'll submit that. We've submitted everything asking for the full 5 million already. And we'll submit the CEQA document. And then we'll see what the regional board, State Water Resources Control Board says.
So it's the board that may come back and say, well, you can do this, but not that.
Yeah, or they might, right. Right. I think the max is $10 million in that grant program. So we're under the max, but they still might not give us the entire 5 million.
And what, it's through the regional water, this is state revolving fund money or?
It's the recycled water program.
Oh,
which-
that's, okay, that's.
Yeah, which no longer really exists. This is kind of the last go around. It hasn't been refunded. It's the existing revolving fund money that was put into that program.
And this is quite a novel thing because most of these were for purple pipe systems. But this was a very novel way of trying to access that money. So kudos to staff for making this attempt. I think it's got real promise. I mean, just the fact that if we're growing fodder crop, the fact that we're not impacting groundwater, we're not drawing groundwater and we're not pushing water down into the groundwater. This project is got huge benefits environmentally.
Yeah, and I think it is very competitive. Even the lady who wrote the comment letter from the State Water Resources Control Board said, it's a great project. We'll get it funded. So I think it is going to be pretty
Hopefully you
competitive.
recorded that.
Yeah.
In combination with a letter about
Yes.
the agronomic use of the water.
Yes.
So that was my question is, would it be better to have the flood cells or just have it be flat and irrigated?
Well, that upper bench, Pelosi is very similar to Fisher, where there's an upper bench up there. So it's tough to, irrigate that with the hoses on the lower flat areas. So it lends itself to the flood irrigation up there. And then down below, it's.
Yeah, a lot less moving parts when you flood irrigate than when you do either rainbird, moving them by hand, or have some sort of automated sprinkler system, a lot less moving parts.
And my second comment was that you might investigate other types of like overhead irrigation besides center pivot, because there are systems that you can make rectangular or whatever you want that I see up in Bend. I go and buy hay up there a lot, so I talk to the hay growers about their
Yeah,
irrigation.
if you have recommendations.
I'll get them.
Okay.
There's some, I mean, it's similar to center pivot, but
That is,
instead of being a
that's the type of
circular thing,
irrigation,
it's
isn't it,
just
where the
rectangular.
pipe goes in and the sprinklers go down and irrigate like that and it moves, it sweeps back and forth.
Yeah. They're good.
Scott?
Okay, yeah, if we do get the sprinklers put in, that would negate the necessity to move the irrigation pipes by hand. What kind of cost savings in terms of labor would that reflect?
I haven't run the numbers. I don't know if you know, could guess off the top of your head, James, or not.
Just a ballpark figure. Okay, I just needed the hours. That works. That's substantial.
Part-time employees moving. the plants.
That is substantial, and if we do get this fully grant funded, that could be, just put back into the department, so that's savings right there. Yeah, more than that,
More than that.
2,000 hours at their rate, their fully loaded rate.
Yeah. But I'm sure we could use the seasonal guys in other places. We'd probably still keep them on. They would just be doing other stuff.
Okay.
Well, that's just another benefit.
Yeah.
Okay.
James, do you have other comments on the project?
Yeah, he needs help turning the microphone.
Appreciate your input. Thank you. Are we ready for the motion?
Do we get public comment?
Yeah, any public comment?
Public comment?
Seeing no public comment, I'll move item E4 per staff recommendation.
Second.
Troy, would you call the roll, please?
Director Bender,
Yes.
President Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Dennis Mayo?
Yes.
and Director Orsini.
Yes.
Okay, we are to item E6. And E5, I'm sorry, E5, item E5, not 6. This point, I'm going to ask, does anyone need a break? All right, then we're going to keep it moving right along. Item E5 is review the operational data and cost savings for the microgrid system. And Pat, would you please lead us through this?
Thank you, President Beitman. As the board is aware, the district received a 50% grant and a 50% loan from the State Water Resources Control Board Energy Efficiency Grant Program. The $5 million grant loan was used to upgrade our our Hiller lift station, purchase Doppler flow meters to assess inflow and infiltration into the sanitary sewer system, and construct the $3.8 million microgrid system at the wastewater treatment facility. The microgrid consists of a 50,000 kilowatt, 500 kilowatt solar array with a 250 kilowatt battery energy storage system, all tied into the existing 500 kilowatt diesel generator and a standalone control panel. The intent of the system is to provide multiple redundancy for the treatment plant, reduce PG&E costs to help reduce budget expenses, and help ensure no upsets to the treatment process and quality of our effluent. The solar array was completed and brought online in December 2022. The BESS, or the battery system intertie with PG&E, was delayed considerably due mainly to extremely onerous permitting process with PG&E, but was eventually brought online in July of 2024. We are still working some bugs out in the BESS and the operating system, but the system is providing the redundancy and cost savings intended. So right now, I'd like to walk through the PowerPoint presentation that our contractor, Amoresco, put together, analyzing this system.
Thank you, Pat.
So those are photos of the existing system. On the right is the solar array. On the left is the battery energy storage system. Next. So as I just mentioned, the commercial operation of the PV array commenced in 2022. At this point, the array began generating the energy for consumption at the wastewater management facility, as well as exporting to the grid, realizing in an energy and cost saving. The commercial operation of the BESS commenced in July 1st, 2024. We established some milestones for our future reporting. So the year we're going to be running through the calendar year. So our first year one was December 2022 through November 2023. And year two is 2023 through November of this last year. Our first loan payment on the $2.5 million was December of last year. So next graph shows the first year. And again, we were just running the solar for the first year. The blue bars are the actual production from the solar array. The red bars are what our wastewater treatment plant was consuming in the same month. And so where the blue bar is higher than the red bar, we were exporting energy to the grid. And then the black line is just the cumulative PV production. So you can see even in February, we were producing more from the solar array than we were consuming by the wastewater treatment plant. And it did that all the way through to September, and then October, November of 23, it dropped back down again, of course, when it started to rain. Year two, also, same thing. It rained through the first part, so we were consuming more energy than the solar array was producing. But then during the summer, we were exporting to the grid. So the solar array has been working great ever since we brought it online. And it has resulted in considerable cost savings. The next slide is the best operating system. And the blue bars are the best input. So that's what is going in to charge the batteries from the solar array. And then the red bars are the output of the best. So the intent of the system is that sun's shining, the solar array is running the facility, charging the batteries, and any excess is then going into the grid. Sun goes down, the charged batteries then discharge to the treatment facility, the energy that's required. And then if there's not enough charge in the batteries, then it goes over to the PG&E, our main power source. And if PG&E isn't there, it would fire up the generator, the emergency generator, if power has been lost. Next slide is the performance summary for years 1 and 2. The second column there is just the baseline. What prior to this was brought on, this is what they were designing on how much our facility, our wastewater treatment plant typically uses. As part of the project and the contract, they guaranteed the PV production. So they guaranteed about 5,000 kilowatt hours for the solar array. Then the next column to the right of that is the gross PV production. So they exceeded what their guarantee was by about 250,000 kilowatt hours in each of the years. And then the next column is the best output and the facility consumption and the net utility consumption, or how much we were importing, exporting. So for year 1, we exported 35,000 kilowatt hours. Year 2, we still ended up having to use some PG&E power, 11,000, but considerably less than we would have. And the next slide is the cost savings. Again, the second and third are the baseline for utility rate and utility cost. And then during the performance period, what we actually saved from the utility. We also calculated we have a loan, so we're paying on the loan. So then the next loan payment, the first one kicked in December 2024. So the net savings is the final column. So we realized a net savings of $187,000 over those 2 years. So with that, I guess I will go back to the recommendations. Staff recommends that the board review the material provided, listen to the presentation, discuss and take public comment on the microgrid operational summary and cost savings.
Points of discussion, points of comment, please. I'll go first. Go ahead here.
Yeah, again, thank you for bringing this to us. I've been eager to get to see it in black and white, how this project's been doing, considering how long we've been working on it and the planning for it and then the implementation for it. And the thing that I can say with certainty is I'm glad that I left before you guys started implementation, because I know what a pain it was to get this project done. So thank you, James and Pat for your diligence on getting this project completed with the intent that we had for the project. So thank you very much. The question I had was related to slide in it, and I just was wondering if it's if it was production or what it was, but on the summary, on the performance summary, or on the savings summary, the net savings, we ended up, saving 35,000 kilowatt hours the first year. And then we ended up expending 11,000 almost 12,000 kilowatt hours. Is that, and then it transferred down to the next slide as net savings, of 135,000 one year and then 51,000 next year. Was that just related to the sun, to the weather and there being more sun, or is
Some
there?
of it was related to the weather, of course.
Yeah.
But it was also the first year when the solar array operated great. The second year, they were still troubleshooting stuff with the BESS. So there were times also when they had to take the solar array off, so they could work on the
So they could
battery
work on the
system.
batteries.
Yeah, that impacted it a bit too. And James, feel free to jump in.
They also were having issues with, using all 9 of the, help me with the word,
Inverters?
inverters. So they were only running off 7 for a while.
Oh, so they
So
had panels that they couldn't use because of the inverters.
They have rows of, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
out of all those 9 inverters that run the runs of panels, we were running less 2.
Okay.
So running on 7.
So between the glitches with the BESS and the issues with the inverters, it put a big kibosh on our production then.
Yeah, but still ended up only using 11.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is this history or is this ongoing, James?
That's pretty well history. We're still having some hiccups with the hiccup we're having with the BESS is the switch from, like I had mentioned, if solar, we're running off solar, we start running off the battery, then the battery looks to transfer to PG&E. And if PG&E isn't there, it fires up the emergency generator. That logic to fire up the emergency generator is not working the way it should be. We think we have it all figured out now. They did an upgrade on the software for the batteries and that screwed everything up. But we think we are going to get it sorted out here. Feel free to jump in, James.
Also at the UPS, they had built in, they have several UPSs inside the Hitachi battery system, the BESS. And those were failing. So if they got too low on the battery, it wants to read the battery over 20% and the battery wants to go to 20%, the BESS does. And if it gets below 25, the UPS was failing the system and then going into protection. And it's simple to say, and I'm not trying to like get all weird, but it's a battery. It's easy to say solar battery generator. But when you tie all that together in islanding mode and say everybody has to talk to each other and communicate and get along, that process was very, very hard for them.
Yeah, the battery backups it's kind of a new technology. So there are a lot of bugs that are still needing to be worked out on a lot of those systems, especially when you have an alternative besides photovoltaic in the grid. If you put a generator in, there's still a lot of things with the battery backups that they're having to work the bugs out on. So our contractor's been supportive of that through this process since it didn't have anything to do with us.
It doesn't have anything to do with us. Yeah, it's the contractor.
Yeah. Okay. So they've been supportive as far as keeping on going on it.
Yes, they
Good.
have.
I'm sure they don't want to, but at least we're not having to threaten them with arbitration or
No,
anything.
Amoresco's been great. Their subcontractor, that the programmer, he's been a little less than great, but yes, Amoresco is putting the screws to him too, to make sure that he
Yeah,
gets.
but we haven't had to use the arbitration word yet.
No.
Good.
Thank you for the discussion. Is there any public comment on this?
Thank you, President Beitman. I appreciate the work you're doing on this. It is a learning experience, isn't it? Especially with all the new software and all the integration. You may know that Oric received $1 million grant to put in a solar backup system for their planned sewage treatment system, which is going to be a real boon to that community as far as economic development. A big reason for the failure for Oric to have any kind of really improved visitor serving facilities is their constraint with sewage. And they're getting close to having a plan for that. And as you may know, north of McKinleyville, when the electricity goes out, and it goes out a lot every winter, like 15, 20 times, and it can be out for weeks, unlike McKinleyville, which you might lose it for a few hours, you know, here and there. So this is a huge deal for them, and I'm sure they've already been in contact with you, Pat. And, you know, we're hoping that with your experience, without costing you significant resources, that that might be of use to Oric in terms of their implementation as well, because it's long overdue for them to be able to have their economic development. So appreciate your efforts on this, and look forward to Oric also getting up and running. Thank you.
Thank you for your input on that. Any other comments?
Yeah, one last thing. So thank you for mentioning that. It kind of triggered something for me that, as I think that Dennis and Dave can both attest to, that there was a lot of push from the community, to come up with some sort of, photovoltaic project, some sort of, we want to have solar in McKinleyville. And I have to commend the board for not just jumping on the first project that came along and waiting till there was something that actually would work for us. And so it took us a while, and we had to shield ourselves from a lot of slings and arrows for a few years on that. But the board stuck with it, and past board members like Director Wheeler and Director Corbett stood strong and waited till we had a project that was feasible. And in this project, really, if we wouldn't have gotten half of the money given to us in grants, it probably wouldn't have been feasible. But it's saving us hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in electric bills now. So I just want to recognize that doing solar is great, but it's got to pencil out. I mean, if you're being responsible stewards of your ratepayers' money, it's got to pencil out. And so I just would like to recognize the board, the people on this board, and then the people on past boards that stuck with it until we had a project that was feasible and would actually save our ratepayers' money, and not just be something we could hang our hat on as we did a solar project.
Thanks for that perspective. Okay, finish.
Greg said that nicer than I was going to, and I appreciate that. Even today, we get slings and arrows anytime you don't agree with the particular political line of BS going on. And we were insulted nonstop for a long time here. And we wanted to do this. We were looking for the right way to do this. And because it didn't pencil out, well, we were, any expletive you want to come up with, attacked at us in public meetings, in the press, etc. We held strong because we were trying to do what was right for this community and what was right for this district, and we did. And really important, I think, to point that out. Don't just let the prevailing momentum of the moment or the community push you into things that make you look good in the feel-good moment. Because it doesn't always work. Most of the time it doesn't work at all. But this works now because of all the things Greg pointed out. Director Couch was here during that. I was here. Greg was either on staff or the GM. It was pretty off-putting processes,
Yeah,
guys.
we almost lost a GM over it.
Yeah, I mean, it was, yeah. So, I think the takeaway from this is stick to the fiscal responsibility and the oath that you take to these offices, and put up with the slings and arrows, and things will work out. So anyway, and like I said, Greg said it better than I did. I'm still PO'd about it, but I'm happy for our outcome.
I'm sorry I brought it up, Dennis.
All right. That's okay. Discussion's important, and it's important for those of us who are coming in late on this to get a good sense of the history and a good sense of the, say, the quality of the thinking that went into carrying this project forward. So
I
appreciate that.
I might add one thing, if you don't mind, President. And this predates our supervisor now, but Jeff Dunk and I, who at that time were friends, worked with the board and the general manager, and spent immense amount of time going to Sacramento, going to Reading, going to all of these meetings on solar stuff to try to get in on the queue for the CBDG grant to put a, I don't know what was the right term, a study deal, a small solar program on a solar project on our library edition. When we did the library edition, we wanted to do something to see what the real nuts and bolts and dollars of how it penciled out. So we thought, well, we would try to do this if we could get this CBDG grant, and the county, Kurt Gerard, I'll just say it. I like Kurt. He's a good friend, but he led us down the garden path and supported us. And we worked and worked and worked. We put a project together that was a good project to do this so that we could study and get some real solid concepts of what we were looking at in this deal, so that we could then take that up to the next level. And lo and behold, as has happened to us many times with the county, and why we started our 2x2s back then, and why we have worked tirelessly on our legislative and our advocacy. We went to the board the day that these grants were presented and going to be parsed out, thinking we were going to get this CBDG grant. We got the rug pulled out from underneath our feet unceremoniously, and they said, "No, we're all going to get together and do a study for some paving project in the city of Eureka." So I just wanted to point that out, that this district has worked really hard on this whole concept of doing the right thing, of being responsible, of seeing if solar was the correct alternative and benefit. The board didn't put any money into this for us. Him and I went to these meetings on our own. We spent a lot of time and research, and of course, Mr. Dunk has the scientific background and stuff to perspective this, or to put it together. I don't. I mean, I barely know that H2O means water, but that's a whole nother story. But we worked and worked and worked on it, spent our money to do it, to help the district, and so I only say that to, again, staccato the fact that this project is the fruition of doing it right. And the community needs to hear that all the time. We just didn't jump. We went into this the right way. And now it's being successful, so.
Thank you, Dennis. Anybody else wish to add to this? This is an item for discussion, and I appreciate the discussion we've had on it, and to me, it's been very elucidating. I'd like to move on now to item E6, which is a review of information for the draft capital improvement plan for Parks and Recreation, General Fund. And Samantha, would you be willing to take us through this, please?
Yes, thank you, President Whitman. The detailed draft of the fiscal year 2025-26 capital improvement plan for the Parks and General Fund is attached, attachment 1, covering the next 10 fiscal years. Budgeted expenditures, which are not grant funded, are anticipated to be covered by assessments and user fees. This allows the district to take a structured approach to future user fees as these projects are undertaken. Funding for certain projects depends on grant funds awarded. Smaller projects that do not meet the definition of capital assets will be treated as regular expenditures and are expected to be paid from operating funds. The attached narrative, attachment 2, provides further details. The final summarized CIP will be brought back to the board for review and approval with the complete fiscal year 2025-26 budget in June 2025. Staff recommends that the board review and discuss the draft capital improvement plan for the Parks and General Fund and take public comment.
Thank you, sir. Are there comments on the presentation on the plan?
Could we get staff to, kind of give us a 30,000-foot view of, where the money's gonna, what the intention is and how that money, and I know, because I know some of these are prioritized and that money might not get spent, so can we kind of go through that with staff? Just
I
real
hope so.
quick, we don't need item by item.
Yeah, I would appreciate that as well, just.
Sure. Would you like me to go through the narrative that I wrote, Greg? I wasn't sure if I should read that specifically.
No, I don't think you need to read the whole narrative. I don't, that's kind of why I suggested this, so that you didn't have to read the whole narrative.
Okay.
Just kind of go through
Yeah,
the
what-
columns. That would be fine for me. I don't know about the rest of the board.
I'll echo that. Just what's this doing, I think, is the thing that's.
Yeah, so, and please, this is my first year, so correct me, Pat or Kristen, if I mess up on anything. So I do know that we do prioritize, our projects within each facility and park that we're doing, and we do sit down and talk about each one and adjust it year by year, depending on what grants have been awarded, what grants we expect to be awarded, made adjustments for Measure B projects as our assessments increased this year, and we're able to allocate funds that way as well. One thing that I did want to point out, it is on page, the last page of the CIP, item 11 for the community forest. There is a committee that is setting out the prioritized projects for the community forest, but at the time of this creation, those projects had not yet been identified. So when we come back with a full budget in June, we'll have that comprehensive list.
And so this number might be modified by then once they've identified.
I believe so. It could potentially be modified.
Yeah, that's just a kind of our ballpark number.
So it's kind of just a placeholder.
Yeah, but I don't think it's gonna change too much.
Well, we only have so much money. to spend,
Right.
so.
Also, as you guys may be aware, so the BMX park did have funds budgeted for it last year, and I believe it was 1.3 million. And because projects have not taken off with the BMX park as we anticipated this year, we didn't have as much expenditures on that project. So we have 1.4 allocated for this year in hopes that I think we're supposed to finish it this year, hopefully. Yeah.
And is that the 1.4 million that you have down that's highlighted in yellow at the bottom?
So this was a learning opportunity for me. I have a note here that actually needs to be changed. I thought that line item was for grant funds that we had already been awarded.
Okay.
There will be a change to that in June that is supposed to represent projects that are dependent on grant funding that we do not yet have funding for.
Okay.
So that will be reevaluated and it'll be updated in the
Okay.
June
Because
presentation.
because the BMX park has already been funded.
Correct, yes, we already do have those funds. We are chasing funds for the community forest. And I think that's the only one we're going after right now, correct? Yeah. What other things are? The library does have ongoing projects. I know the ADA compliance has been under conversation for a while, and I believe that's going to be done or has been done. It's going to be done next year.
Yeah, we're in design right now and go to construction on some of the ADA upgrades next year.
I have a question on the library deal. What's our connection with the county on that? Because they have some requirements for ADA, and is this all our responsibility, or is there some connection with us in the county in dealing with that?
I am going to defer to Pat for that answer.
I thought Kirsten was gonna jump in. We've been in extensive conversations with the county, right? The county has gone through and laid out all the ADA requirements that aren't being met for both the sheriff's substation and the library. We went through with them and divided up who's responsible for those upgrades. Our big cost on this is there needs to be an accessible pathway from the sidewalk all the way to the sheriff's substation.
And there isn't?
Oh, no, not at all.
Oh, okay.
If you go and walk it, it's really,
Okay.
so it's, yeah,
Where the sheriffs pull around the back, there's nothing there. Their road.
Well, I understand that, but what would the ADA requirement be for that? I mean, we don't have sheriffs that need ADA access there,
Everybody's gotta have ADA all the way across the whole thing.
but across the
We
front.
applied for another grant that we didn't get, that would have covered that cost, but
yeah, we didn't get it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't need to get in the weeds. You've answered my question enough to know that it's a combination deal we're working on.
Yeah.
So thank you.
we're gonna be on the hook for part of it.
Yeah, okay.
So a big expenditure that is budgeted for is the Azalea Hall project for replacing the exterior siding and other updates. However, we split it over the next 2 fiscal years as we do anticipate it to be about 100,000. There are also a couple placeholders of larger dollar amounts that aren't necessarily going to be expenditures that are required, but we wanted placeholders in the event that major appliances failed. There's also 2 facilities that we budgeted for fire suppression replacement because they have met their useful life expectancy, but they have not failed. And although a recommendation was given to be aware that they may need to be replaced, I don't think we're actually expecting to have to replace them this year, but we wanted to budget for that because of the recommendation that their useful life had passed, so.
Dennis.
Relative to this facility, can someone give me just a brief little update on, we put in the new doors and the new doors aren't working, and what's the status of that?
So the handicap door is under warranty still. We had to have the contractors come out. They had to take a piece out of it and ship it somewhere. So we're waiting for it to get fixed. So we're not paying anything for their repairs that they need to make because they are brand new doors and they theoretically shouldn't have broken this early. But it is under warranty, so we're just kind of in a holding pattern until
Thank you. I
that can get
get
fixed.
asked a lot, so thank you. And I know Scott does as well. So,
God.
yeah, anyway, just curious, that's all. Thanks.
Is there any other questions regarding the CIP?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. Thanks for giving us the 30,000 foot view. and kind of see where all the pieces are in this. Let's move on next to the committee assignments. And we've had some, Pat and I've had some discussion on that, and we basically say that in the interest in continuity, it would be desirable that we continue on with the present committee assignments. And I think there's one exception to that, but I'll call for others who would like to say, no, no, thank you. I'm not, I'd like to make a change. And if there are none, then I'll make the one suggestion and then call for approval. Yeah, you okay? All right. The one that came from discussion is with Dennis that I have been representing MCSD on the REDAC board. And I found that for personal issues, and I'll just make it very simply because of my wife's illness, I have not been able to consistently attend meetings. I've had on several occasions, I've had to say, I can't make this meeting, and Dennis has, I kindly offered to step in and become the primary on that, and I will become the alternate, and I'm hoping that's acceptable to other people as well.
And I'm fine with that. I was the REDEC representative for what, 8 or 9 years, I guess. And then we passed that on to Jim. I was actually the alternate, and but you and I'm gonna be the primary, you're gonna be the alternate, right?
Yeah, so,
Okay, yes, and I'm totally fine with that.
and by the way, your time and your service there is very highly regarded and much appreciated.
But they said, don't send them back.
I think that's what they said. Matter of fact, I talked to Greg at the airport, just the other day, and didn't get that feeling that I want.
Okay.
So you guys are gonna switch on REDEC?
Yeah, so we're gonna switch on REDAC, but everything else, unless there's some desire to make other changes, continue.
Yeah,
on.
I would like to make I've been on the McMac since General Manager Chopay passed away in 2012. And I think for the sake of other people on the McKinleyville Community Services District Board of Directors getting a chance to take a shot at being on the McMac, I would like to make a suggestion that so I'm not gonna go cold turkey, but I would suggest that myself and Director Bender switch, and he can be the primary, and I'll be the backup on that, if that's okay with the board president.
Is it okay with the two of you?
This doesn't come as a big surprise to me. You know, I think we mentioned it last year, you would have done 12 years on the McMac, and that's a hell of a long time for anybody to serve on a committee. So I was prepared to step in anyway.
Yeah, I
So-
very much appreciate that, and you've done a great job when I've being the alternate, when I've had other things that I've had to do, and I couldn't make those meetings, so I figured it just made sense that you could step into that position. I think you're very
Okay.
thoughtful and
good
you make
God,
very
don't
informed decisions, and so.
Additionally, I've been, keeping up with the minutes they've been sent me. And so I'm not coming in just completely green on it.
Dennis?
Yeah, for whatever it matters, and it doesn't because it's between you and the president, but, I think that, Scott, Director Bender, I apologize, is so up to speed on this that it's a really great transition. it will be, it'll be good. And I want to thank Greg for his service and his, not just his service, but his, demeanor in how he conducts himself and stays, his fidelity to the district. That's important in these deals because we represent the district, not just the community, but we represent the district. And sometimes people forget that. And I know you won't. So just.
Thank you both. Anyone or anything else? Okay.
Everything else stays the same.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Everything else stays the same. Two of you switch roles, and two of us switch roles, but on the same committee. And the rest of it remains the same. I think this is an appointment. I don't think it requires, that
You're the
we,
boss.
it does not require that we have a motion and a vote.
Yes, indeed.
So I will take the position of authority and say, so be it.
You really didn't even have to consult us. You could have just. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose.
Too damn polite.
I suppose. It's not my makeup. Next item on the agenda, and there are only a few left, thank goodness, is to consider the first reading of ordinance 2025-01 codifying Article 9 of MCSD rules and regulations, administrative remedies procedure. And Joy, would you please present that for us?
Thank you, President Beitman. On September 25th, 2024, Assembly Bill 2257 was passed by the California legislature, creating law which would prohibit a local agency, if a local agency complies with specified procedures, a person or entity from bringing a judicial action or proceeding alleging noncompliance with the constitutional provisions for any new, increased, or extended fee or assessment unless that person or entity has timely submitted to the local agency a written objection to that fee or assessment that specifies the grounds for alleging noncompliance. A requirement for the district's protection under the law is the creation of an exhaustion of administrative remedies procedure that requires ratepayers to bring an objection regarding a proposed property-related water, sewer fee, or charge, or any special assessment to the local public agency governing body's attention prior to the deadline established by the local public agency as part of the rate or assessment consideration process. To enjoy the protections when increasing or levying new fees, the public entity must do all of the following. 1, make available to the public the proposed fee or assessment no less than 45 days prior to the deadline for a ratepayer to submit an objection. 2, post on its internet website a written basis for the fee or assessment. 3, in a written notice sent pursuant to subdivision C of section 4 or paragraph 1 of subdivision A of section 6 of article 8D of the California Constitution. Additionally, include a link to the internet website above. 4, provide at least 45 days for a property owner to review the proposed fee or assessment and to timely submit a written objection to that fee or assessment that specifies the grounds for alleging noncompliance. 5, consider and respond to written objection, including grounds for denial of objection to any timely submitted written objection prior to the close of the protest hearing or ballot tabulation hearing required under section 6 of article 13D of the California Constitution. Staff has drafted an administrative remedies procedure in ordinance 2025-01 that codifies this procedure as Article 9 of the MCSD rules and regulations. This proposed addition to the MCSD rules and regulations has been reviewed by District Legal Counsel. If the first reading is approved, this item will return at the March 5th, 2025 meeting for second reading. Staff recommends that the board review information provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve the first reading of ordinance 2025-01, attachment 1 by title only.
And the ordinance is attached.
See if I got a comment on this one too.
Hmm?
I said, I hate to say it, but I have a comment on this too.
Please.
I'm sure staff will be sick and tired, and glad to see me leave. So anyway, this is very important. The origin of this goes back to, the 218 process and the ability of, the way case law was created, for being able to, object to the 218 process. People were basically not saying a word through the whole, the first reading and the second reading of the 218, the engineer's reports and everything like that. And then, they would basically come in and file after the 218, after the 218 process had been approved, the engineer's report had been approved, they would come in, they would file at that point in time. And it would basically then the entity that was being sued or their rate schedule or whatever it was, or levy was being challenged, they had to basically put the levy on hold, or the rate on hold until they got this figured out. And, so I think this is great legislation. I'm not one that thinks that a lot of stuff that comes out of Sacramento is worthwhile. But this is something that's very important for the protection of all districts, whether they're the size of LA County or whether they're the size of Oric, to be able to protect them. That if you've got an issue with something in the engineer's report or during that process, that you have to be loud and you have to be clear about that right from the get-go. That you can't wait until after it's already been approved by the board before you speak up on it. So, great piece of legislation. And I like the way that we handled it and the way this ordinance is going to go into our rules and regulations. So kudos to staff for being proactive with this.
I agree 100% with those statements.
Other comments? Questions for you, Joey? This is the first reading. What follows, please?
So should this first reading be approved, then next month it will come back for a second reading and approval of adoption of the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Public comment? Anybody else wishing to join it? Okay. It calls for roll call vote. May I have a motion, please? Okay. Joey, would you call the roll, please?
Director Binder,
Yes.
President Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch, Director Mayo, and Director Orsini.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is the attendance at the Association of California Water Agencies, ACWA, Spring Conference and Expo in Monterey. This is to be presented by Joey Blaine.
Thank you, President Beitman. This year's Aqua 2025, forgive my typo, Spring Conference and Expo will be held in Sacramento, California from May 13th to 15th, 2025. Regular registration and cancellation deadline is expected to be in mid-April. Based on last year's information, the regular registration deadline is estimated to be mid-April, and the approximate total cost for travel, meals, and attendance to the conference is anticipated to be approximately $1,254 per attendee. The remaining board travel budget for fiscal year 24-25 is approximately $9,624. To maintain the lowest possible costs, if approved, directors should notify the board secretary no later than February 19th, 2025 of their desire to attend. Staff recommends that the board review the information provided for the Aqua 2025 Spring Conference and Expo being held in Sacramento, May 13th through 15th, 2025, and consider approval for interested board members to attend.
Any discussion on this?
Okay, one minor correction. It's being held in Monterey this year rather than Sacramento.
Thank you.
And I do plan on attending. So if you want my hotel recommendation, I'll take the lowest rate one at Hotel Pacific. And you'll like that one too.
We should coordinate that, and I, of course, have to go to that as one of my obligations for being a board member of the Association of California Water Agencies.
Yeah, there's a communications committee meeting as well on that day.
And
Or during
federal
the conference.
affairs and agriculture, et cetera, et cetera.
Every committee meets on the first Tuesday,
Yeah.
so.
Do you need more information at this point?
Not at this point. If any directors know for sure they want to go, if they want to let me know right now, or they can let me know by February 19th, just so I can make sure we get in
And
on best
uh,
rates.
I definitely am going, and I think Scott is, and I think Scott's probably on the same page with me, as we would probably would prefer to drive down.
Oh, we're definitely
yeah.
driving.
Yeah, because flying there's a nightmare. So,
And then we need a roll call vote approving
Yes.
a motion and a second, a roll call.
I make a motion to approve the agenda item.
No, second.
Joey, please call the roll.
Director Bender,
Yes.
President Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch, Director Mayo,
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Yes.
Okay, the next item is also an attendance item. This is for the Association of California Water Agencies Legislative Symposium. And is it,
No, it's CSDA,
CSDA. I think.
CSDA, California Special
yes,
Districts
what is
Association.
this?
Yeah,
It's not ACWA, it's just a C, what is this?
CSDA,
CSDA, okay.
It's on page 215.
California Special Districts.
Association.
Yes.
I'm up an agenda, I jumped an item here. Where am I? Oh, CSDA, I apologize. This is attended at the Legislative Days in Sacramento, May 2021. And again, Joey, would you please give us the information on this?
Certainly. Thank you, President Beitman. The California Special Districts Association is sponsoring a two-day conference which will be held at the Sheraton Grand Sacramento Hotel on May 20th through 21st, 2025. This will give directors an opportunity to discuss policy changes impacting the district and exchange ideas with California's top decision makers. Special Districts Legislative Days is the only opportunity for all types of special districts, large and small, north and south, rural and urban, to come together with one united voice. Issues like revenue, governance, labor, and public works matter to all districts, whether they provide water, sewer, fire protection, parks, libraries, or other essential services. A full brochure is still being developed by CSDA. However, an overview of this event is as follows. Day 1 is Advocacy Day. Day 2 is Policy Day. There are details therein. Early bird registration is $395 before April 23rd, 2025, and hotel costs at the Sheraton Grand Sacramento are $222 a night, excluding taxes. The district vehicle can be utilized for attendees. An approximate total cost, including per diem, is approximately $1,012 per attendee. The remaining board travel budget, not including possible travel costs to the Aqua Spring Conference and Expo for fiscal 2024-25, is approximately $14,630.
Whoa.
To maintain the lowest possible cost, if approved, directors should notify the board secretary no later than February 24th, 2025, or February 14th, 2025, if their desire to attend. Staff recommends that the board review the information provided, take public comment, and consider approval for interested board members to attend the Special District Legislative Days in Sacramento, May 20th through 21st, 2025.
Further,
Yeah, as a member of the CSDA Board of Directors, I'm required to be there, so I'll definitely have to. I would also encourage any of our other board members, considering we're usually the only ones there from the Northern Network, to get at least a couple other board members to go along on that if they possibly can, if it fits into their schedules, so that we at least, when we get a chance to go talk to our legislators, there's a few of us there. I completely understand if that's not the case, and I can handle it by myself, but, and we also will be coordinating with, to set up, times to meet with our legislators.
Yes, and Rojas Communications, our lobbyist group, has agreed to help facilitate.
To help
the setting up of
facilitate
those
that.
meetings.
Very good. Thank you.
I might be able to. I'll check my calendar and.
Okay.
and coordinate.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate what Director Orsini said. As far as our board travel, our attendance to conferences, symposiums, and everything else, this particular opportunity, Legislative Days in Sacramento, is the most important one that we should go to. If we only could go to one out-of-town event as a board member, this gives us the opportunity to bring direct benefit back to our ratepayers rather than the indirect benefit garnered at conferences. In where we learn stuff, this is where we get to press the flesh with the decision makers and the legislators, their chiefs of staff, their office people who have their ear. So I would encourage my colleagues at this table, if you can possibly do it at all, go to this.
Thank you for that perspective. Any other comments, any other discussion? Yes. Okay. And your deadline, Joey, for letting you know is Valentine's Day,
It is Valentine's Day, February 14th.
the 14th, okay. Okay.
Barring any other comments, I'll move item E10 per staff recommendation.
Second.
Call the question, Joey?
Director Bender,
Yes.
President Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Yes.
Okay, now we can move ahead. I was just wishful thinking, jumping ahead. Sorry about that. This one is a attendance at the Aqua Legislative Symposium on March 26th of this year. Joey?
Thank you again, President Beitman. This year's ACO 2025 Legislative Symposium will be held in Sacramento, California on March 26, 2025. Aqua's Legislative Symposium has been an annual event engaging water district directors, general managers, attorneys, and staff from across California with up-to-date information on critical water policy issues. Registration for the conference is $385 per traveler. The approximate total cost for travel, meals, and attendance to the conference is $800 per attendee. To maintain the lowest possible costs, if approved, directors should notify the board secretary no later than February 19th, 2025 of their desire to attend. Staff recommends that the board review the information provided for the Aqua 2025 Legislative Symposium being held in Sacramento, March 26, 2025, and consider approval for interested board members to attend.
Any discussion, please? Okay. Public comment? No? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Joey, you call the roll?
Director Bender,
Yes.
President Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and Director Orsini.
Yes.
Motion passed. All right, from here we move on to staff reports. And guess we'll start with Samantha. It was, because you're the next one in my folder.
I think you're jumping.
Got to go to active committee reports first.
Committee reports?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Director Bender reminds me that committee reports take place before staff reports. So let's go down the list of committee reports. And where's that list? Scott, what is that?
Page 5.
Page 5. All right, let's do that. Parks and Recreation Committee.
Did not meet.
Not me. How about the area fund?
Did not meet.
REDEC did not meet. McKinleyville Senior Center Board Liaison. Scott?
We meet Monday through Friday from 9 until 3:30 PM in the senior room. Okay, yeah, January's been a great month for us. We're glad to be back from our 2-week break. We resumed January with a new program. We now host line dancing here in the Hewitt Room on Thursdays between noon and 1. We have a wonderful woman named Kim O'Quinn, who also teaches line dancing at Humboldt Senior Resource Center, Adorney Center, and other places. She's providing her leadership for this, for the love of the community, and it's by donation only. So please, come in if you're 55 years or up. We have anywhere between 17 and 20 people for the last couple of weeks. Line dancing is particularly good for seniors because it promotes good strength and balance training. It helps prevent bone loss. It provides a congregate social outlet, and it helps cardiovascular health. Movement memory is huge because they learn the steps. And there's just so much benefit for seniors for line dancing. And we're excited to have that with us. So,
Besides which it's fun.
and it's just fun.
Well, after you put it that way, with all the benefits, I'm gonna keep my crack about broken hips to myself.
Okay. Yeah, additionally, our board president, Kathy Anderson, and I met with a woman named Susan Cleverdon, who's the director of area programming at Area 1 Agency on Aging this morning. And she toured our facilities, and we sat down and had a great conversation, which lasted a little bit more than an hour, upon which we discussed various ways of further collaborating with her agency, neighboring agencies that we both have relationships with, and seeing how we can put people together to bring benefit to our center, as well as our people bringing benefit to their organization as a whole. So that's looking up as well. So I'll have more to tell you at our March meeting after we start putting some wheels in motion. So that's all I got from the MSC.
Thanks for the, thanks for keeping the senior center resource so active and so engaging for the seniors. Seeing as I'm one, so there. The next committee report is Audit and Finance. Director Orsini.
I think we have a meeting scheduled, but we haven't had a meeting since our last meeting.
Okay. Next one is employee negotiations, Director Couch.
Notice in our consent calendar, we had an item there, approved a 3-year contract. So it's all, yeah.
Okay. McMack, Director Orsini.
Thank you.
Last time.
One last time. So we had a fairly good conversation. I'll jump to the end of the meeting and announce the election of officers. Mary Burke will be the president. Lisa Dugan will be vice president. Bonnie Oliver will be the secretary, and Kevin Jenkins will be the treasurer. We spent a considerable amount of time talking about sort of like a miniature planning session for agenda items for the next year. So there'll be some pretty good agenda items. As Supervisor Madrone brought up, we're going to try to put together a roundtable for hazard mitigation related to fires and earthquakes in our area. And floods might be part of that too. Let's see. We also were made aware of this, that the funding for the Hiller Bridge might be coming, and the seismic the Hammond Trail Bridge, not the Hiller Bridge. Sorry about that. That was another thing that we talked about. But anyway, and I was, pleasantly surprised when I found out that McKinleyville had actually been invited to that to talk about it since we have oh no, it is this, I'm sorry, it is the Hiller Overpass Bridge that was the funding that they're considering funding for that, and seismic retrofit for that. And I was pleasantly surprised when McKinleyville Community Services District was invited to the table to discuss that, since we have a water main hanging on the bottom of that bridge. So you guys did get to go to that? Yeah. Supervisor Madrone announced to us that he's going to be the chair of LAFCO for the 2025 for this year. So congratulations to you on getting that gig. And I think the rest of it is all, like I said, just discussions on, one of the things that we talked about for quite a while was expanding the McMac membership to include a student from McKinleyville High School, and perhaps somebody from one of the local tribes to represent the community. They're part of the community on the McMac. That got a lot of discussion and seemed to get quite a bit of traction.
Question about
Sure.
that. What's the procedure for that? Does that have to be vetted not only through the MAC, but back through us and then back to the board? Or do you know, and if you don't, that's fine, we could, I don't know what the protocol.
So
on
there's
that is.
there's rules and regulations ultimately the Board of Supervisors would have to approve rules and modifications to the rules and regulations. But at this point in time, it's very tertiary and there's no real,
I think it sounds like a great idea.
yeah. I think that there's a lot of, first, there's got to be interest by the tribes and also by the high school kids to actually show up to the meeting. So I think if I don't think that the McMac is going to go through all the rigmarole unless there's an interest in it, because it is going to be a process and it's going to ultimately have to be approved by the Board of Supes. But that was a pretty fun thing to talk about. But that's really all I had.
Now, any comments on that? Okay. Would you also bring us up to date on the community forest community?
Sure, I can do that too. So we had the subcommittee reports from the TICs. That's just got to be the best acronym for the Trails Infrastructure and Cleanup Committee, TICs. That's great.
And you can't say it professionally.
And then also the Forest Management Plan gave us a briefing on their subcommittee report. And then we actually had a discussion about a potential fund. It started out as kind of a discussion session about establishing a 501c3 and that, but I'll come back to that in a minute. And then we had an update on the VTP CAL FIRE grant, which we approved the CEQA document for that tonight. And then so to double back on the fund, so it was proposed that by a member of the community that we create a fund that would be, that if you don't, you could contribute to that, and it would be a tax, it would give you a tax benefit. It would be a tax write-off. And so Kirsten and I had a conversation with a member of the community and got some more insight on that and kind of got us a better, it seemed like we got a bit of pushback from the committee about giving away giving away autonomy to another board. If we had if a 501c3 was formed, there would have to be a board related to that 501c3 and a few members of the committee, not half of them, but a few members of the committee, almost half of them were concerned about the issues with autonomy to that committee related to having another bureaucracy involved in that. And so I think that there's other ways that we can do it. We can set up a fund, a tax-free fund, and basically then MCSD would basically administer that fund. And those projects could be vetted through the committee, the forest committee. And there's a couple of different ways that can be handled. And the way that intrigued me the most was that fund would basically be, you would contribute to that. You'd get a write-off for your taxes on that. And then the fund, we would use the dividends from that fund. So you'd basically be creating a trust fund for that. And then the district wouldn't spend the principal, they would just spend the dividends, the interest that was accumulated from that. But we could also set it up so that if somebody decided to bequeath MCSD with a large, with a chunk of money, say they had 50 grand that was burning a hole in their pocket, or they wanted it to be part of their will, part of their estate, that they wanted $50,000 to go to put in garbage cans throughout the community park, that they could earmark that money to be spent that way too. So I think it gives us a lot of latitude for ways. It gives us another funding source. It gives the members of the community that really like going up in the woods, but might not necessarily be ready to or able to go up there and grab a rake or pick up garbage or something, another way to contribute to the community forest and help out. So hopefully we'll keep working on that, and we might in the future be bringing something like that back to the board. As I said, it will most likely be administered by the McKinleyville Community Services District Board of Directors if we go that route. So anyway, that's all I had on that.
Good report. Thank you. Any comments? The Municipal Water Task Force, do you have anything to report on that?
We didn't meet, but I got my request for a meeting in tonight.
You got your admonition in.
I did.
Yes. Anything else on active committee reports? Legislative and regulatory reports.
I've got one thing. Director Mayo and myself, we met with Sheriff Hansel last week, and we had wide-ranging discussions, but the things that are relevant to the McKinleyville Community Services District are related to support for sheriff support for the community forest, access, and also support from what's the sheriff that the OHV deputy maybe. Okay, so we pass that number on to Kirsten so that she can so that we can further explore that.
And just to add to him, I don't mean to totally interrupt, but that OHV deputy is very willing to meet and look at the facility and brainstorm, et cetera. So, and I thought it was appropriate for Kristen and you to set those up and not me or Greg. Sorry, Greg.
I'm done.
Any other thoughts?
I have a few.
Hmm?
I have a few. So I have a few, first off, I'll just mention first that I've got 30 appointments already scheduled in DC, and I'll be back there for quite some time. I'll be leaving on the 18th, and one of the main relationships that and I've mentioned this before, that I will be developing, Congressman Huffman is going to make an introduction to me to Senator Schiff. I think it's very important to develop a good relationship with our new senator. It's going to be very important for lots of stuff that we're working on. And then I mentioned this earlier in our meeting about the flux that's going on with water and fire, et cetera. And that's a huge discussion going on the Hill continually. There will be a significant either legislation or mandates or what, but there'll be a lot of money coming down the pike to California for the fire. And that fire issue is quite relevant to the issues that we're looking at for our community forest, and not just us, but all over the state on fire load reduction, all that relates to that. So I'll be pressing that issue significantly, and it's interesting that one of the other things I'll be talking about, our congressman did not support, but for some reasons, and we've spoken about that. But anyway, I'll be doing that. So relative to our local issues, I met at the airport. They had the airport meeting a few days ago on the updates on what the FFA new requirements, and on and on and on, and it was quite a meeting. And things on the airport are kind of funky right now. They spent a lot of money to upgrade the parking. They did a good job there. Sorry he left, but the supervisors canned our airport manager, so that's kind of in flux. But so lots going on at the airport, and there's no if anybody's interested, they on the county page, and I think I put that person in touch with you, Scott, too, and Scott may have it. The proposals, you can find them online, and so that's a lot of proposals. Nothing down in steel yet. Anyway, and then the one thing that I talked about is Congress passed the Fix Our Forest Act, which we've all worked on for a long time. And I think it's really good. It doesn't fix everything by a long shot, but lots of diverse people worked on it. Congressman LaMalfa and Thompson worked on it collectively, and our congressman didn't support it because it didn't meet his viewpoints on certain types of NGOs being able to sue about it, reduce some of those. But nonetheless, that's good for us too. In that legislation is help for things that we want to work on our forest, our community forest. And then Aqua has got a series of legislative committee policy meetings going on in the next few weeks, and I will have that available. I'll give them to Scott as well. And these are all the different committees: ag, water quality, state ledge, and it's going to be a pretty cool webinar on those for everybody in this state, and you can, so that it's going to be a good deal. And if I would suggest if anybody's interested, that you could just at your convenience, zoom in and out throughout the day on those meetings. And then lastly, sad to say that CARB is continuing to enforce the state, local clean fleets requirements vigorously and not entertaining our efforts on that. But that certain portions of the Advanced Clean Fleets Act, they're not going to enforce. And it requires federal authorizations that apply to high priority and drayage fleets. However, CARB will continue to enforce the state and local fleet requirements, which were effective as of January 1. And so we're all still working on that. And, you know, that's quite an impact on agencies like us throughout the state. So continuing to monitor that and comment on it. And I think that's enough for lots going on. We could go on with this legislative for an hour or more here. So thank you.
Appreciate your report. Appreciate your keeping on top of all this stuff for us, Dennis. Thank you.
You got to do it 2:30 in the morning, I guess.
Yes. I'd like to,
Cut my email back and forth at 2 and 3 in the morning.
okay.
Got the whole bandwidth to ourselves
Yeah.
texting.
There you go. Staff reports. Now finally to this point. Finance and Administration, Samantha.
Yeah, thank you. I did my best to sum up where the annual audit is currently at. We did get the state controller's report turned in on January 31st on its due date, so that's great. And as far as I know, we are right on schedule to have open completed items for the audit done by February 14th, with the single audit to be completed by February 14th as well. Jeff, our external auditor, has committed to getting me the first draft of the financial statements by February 24th. And it's my understanding there'll be some back and forth between him and I as I read through and make sure he has all the information correct. And it's my hope that we'll be prepared for Finance and Audit Committee meeting the week of March 16th to be able to have the auditors present the final audit at the April 2nd board meeting.
Give us those 2 dates again, please, Samantha. Finance and Audit Committee will be.
Aiming for the week of March 16th for the Finance and Audit Committee meeting and delivery and presentation of the final audit to the board on April 2nd.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping this thing on track. I know it's a huge job. Operations Department, James Henry.
Nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Parks and Recreation Department, Kirsten.
I would love to say nothing further to add, but I just want to point out, since our last meeting in December, we went down a recreation coordinator, and I'm happy to report that we have now hired for that position, and we're hiring a longtime part-time employee, Kristen McDonald. So she's been able to come in kind of part-time. She will start officially full-time. Her anniversary date will be February 16th. So I'm also kind of pumped that her very first day will be a paid holiday after working for us for 20 years without getting any paid holidays.
She's been working for us since she was in high school, almost, hasn't she?
Yes.
That's
And
awesome.
So
That's
nothing further than that.
Thank you. General Manager Kaspari. You're the-
A couple quick updates. Received the paperwork today for our $5 million highway sewer crossing grant and received the paperwork yesterday
Yay.
for our $250,000 cybersecurity grant too. So we're processing those and we'll be getting both of those. 4.5 million gallon tank is proceeding.
What's our board commissioners' commission on that?
You get our thanks.
Oh, okay, just wondering.
And if he tells you what's in the cybersecurity grant, he'll have to kill you.
Yeah, okay.
4.5 million gallon tank is moving forward. Don't know that the contractor is gonna meet the contract completion date. I'm sure they won't, but, we'll keep you updated on where things stand. with that.
Has this rain, that we've been having hampered them some or not?
Yeah, the nice days were great and they got a lot of work done, but yeah, now it's back to raining.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have nothing further to add.
Thank you. Appreciate all the input on everything else. Means a lot. President's report, first day on the job, and I thank everybody here for the assistance, keeping me on track and, encouraging me, and I have nothing else to report other than gratitude and willingness to, I've not decided to run screaming from the hall. But rather than.
It's okay, because we're gonna if you went that way, Dennis was gonna get you. If you went that way, I was gonna get you.
So that's it. Any other board member comments, announcements, report?
Yeah, I've got something.
Yes, please.
I'd like to defer my time to Supervisor Madrone if he had anything you'd like to say.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Director Rossini and Chair, our President Beitman. Yeah, I'm never quite sure, but I think traditionally under the President's report is when you guys ask me for something. So thank you for that opportunity. I just have a few quick things because it is late already. One is that thanks to the voters, we passed Measure O. So we're going to start making a difference on roads. It won't happen tomorrow, but it will start happening. And we set up a subcommittee because the measure was to provide mostly funding for roads, but also some funding for transit. And microtransit's going to be starting up here in McKinleyville very soon. We've been working with HTA to bring that about. It'll probably be vans rather than full-size buses because things are spread out. But in Measure O, where the board wants to get the advice from a committee representing the community on what the split should be between transit and roads. Again, it's going to be mostly roads. That's the commitment we made to the voters. So I made sure that there's a seat for the CSD on this committee. I believe you've been contacted, Pat. Not yet, but you will be. And it's got, HCOG, HTA, and others on the committee with Tom Mattson, our Public Works Director, to basically talk about what the split should be between transit and roads. And then that recommendation will come to our board. We'll use that then to proceed with funding for those two things. Again, the vast majority is going to roads. Tom Mattson will be bringing a recommendation each year to the HCOG TAC. Do you guys participate in the TAC? Nope. Okay. Oh, it's an open meeting to the public. So it gets announced, it's Brown Act. But it will be Tom bringing together a proposal for how the money would be spent each year. So we'll start making serious progress. So that's good news there on our roads. And because McKinleyville has so many county roads and private ones, but you have a lot of county roads, I wanted to make sure the CSD was involved in that decision-making. Secondly, I was talking with our new assemblyman, Chris Rogers, about water storage, in particular during earthquakes and or fires. So with a really big earthquake, I mean, what you're doing with this tank is phenomenal. What a massive storage that is. But if an earthquake ruptures pipes, you may not be able to get the water to when you need it in order to fight the fire. That was part of the problem in LA. So there's a concept called distributed water storage, where we would hopefully get state grant monies to work with private landowners to put storage on their own property. 5,000 gallons tank storage with rainwater collection sitting right there in your backyard. Takes up about a 10-foot by 10-foot area. That way, if the pipes break or if pipes are down, like in West Haven, they had big leaks, Trinidad had big leaks, they had to fix. So for a while, they were on rationing. And so by having distributed storage at as many homes as we can have, we can add millions of gallons of more water stored right where you might need it in a fire. And if water is short because of maintenance and things like that. Additionally, that puts no burden on the ratepayers or on the district because these would be maintained by the landowner. So that's a concept that's been thrown around out there to kind of add to our resiliency and, you know, protection in earthquake and fire. So I think that's another good thing. The last thing I wanted to mention, as you know, I represent the whole 5th district, which is huge. It's a huge district, right? I think you all are pretty familiar with its boundaries going all the way up to Orleans, almost to Klamath, et cetera. And so I would be remiss if I didn't remind the board that I appreciate the comments that were made earlier about Humboldt Bay water being provided to the North County. The Rancheria absolutely wants that, and they have every right to ask for it, and the district needs to respond to that request, and they're doing that. But Trinidad has voted numerous times to say, we don't want the pipeline. West Haven has said, we also don't want to connect to the pipeline. Now, you might disagree with that. Different people can have different opinions. That's the beauty about this country, right? But those communities have spoken and said they don't want it. And the reason they said that is because it is a growth inducement to have that water. They don't want to see that growth in their communities. There'll still be growth no matter what we do, but they have spoken. And I would just ask that you consider that when you're making statements about wanting to give them water when they said, we don't want it. It's just a consideration. The other comment was about the environmental consequences. If we could bring that pipeline water up, how much that would help the local environment in that area. And what's really interesting about the West Haven Trinidad area is it's a set of uplifted marine terraces that are flat. So when it rains, the water really wants to infiltrate, much like it does here in the McKinleyville Terrace, it infiltrates. A recent fluvial geomorphologist made an estimate of how much water is stored in the uplifted terraces of Lufenholtz Creek, Mill Creek, in that area. The estimate is that it is approximately 1/3 of the volume of Ruth Lake. It's a massive underground reservoir, which is why none of the creeks in that area have ever dried up. Never in historical times have they even come close to drying up. So yes, we're using local water, but it is sustainable. I've lived there 50 years. And so I just ask you to be considerate of what that community is saying in regards to the water growth inducement and trying to live within their means. So it's just a polite thing I'm trying to say in regards to representing the whole community, which is very difficult sometimes. So thanks for listening. That's all I have for tonight. Appreciate it.
I had one question for you. The 5,000 gallon reservoir
Yeah.
property owner, what are the?
That's
what-
storage tanks.
Yeah, what will they be, what's the external plumbing going to go to for?
So it can be done a number of ways. Number one, it should have a 4-inch nozzle so that the fire department can hook into it right away, right? But they cost about $10,000. And if you add another couple $1,000s, you can have a external pump. So the water could be pumped in a fire or into the house with a check valve so that it can't go into the city's water supply. There's, you know, important separations you got to maintain for that
That
kind of
was the
thing.
reason for my question, because every one of those we will need to know about so we can put double check valves. towards
Absolutely.
that. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all been thought through. The other beauty is these are not governed by the Uniform Building Code, 5,000 gallons or less. And there's also a property tax waiver that was passed 2 years ago that these 5,000 gallon tanks or hard tanks with rainwater collection are not taxed as a property improvement, which is a form of incentive. So what we were talking about with the assemblyman was, could we have some grant programs that could come in and cost share with landowners who wanted to do this? It won't be a requirement. It's something that we're trying to incentivize as an additional form of storage to the municipal storage that you're working on and all these other things. So we think of it as a plus, and if it's not taxable, then that's a further incentive. Thank you.
And they will have to be anchored down or they'll fall over when we have an earthquake.
If it's a 5,000 gallon tank sitting on a pad, it's not going anywhere.
So,
We'll see.
You know, if you put them on a hillside, that's a whole other matter. But if you're putting them on a concrete pad with a perimeter, and anchoring wouldn't be a bad idea, Greg, for sure. But it's.
I think the
it
pass
really-
code, I think the pass code, you'd have to anchor them.
Well, like I said, they're actually exempt from the Uniform Building Code. 5,000 gallon tanks are smaller because of the nature of what they are. But yeah, little details. So it's just a piece of a puzzle, right?
So John Corbett and I worked on that for many years, and we brought Scott Bauer in on that discussion to get this legislatively approved, because for years, the legislature felt, and when you talk about a community not wanting something, many communities in California weren't too supportive of giving pot growers tax exemptions to put more 5,000 gallon tanks in, and Fish and Game was pretty hardcore about saying that's it. So we worked on that for a long time legislatively, a long time to get that approved. And I always want to thank John for his help to me legally to help get that done. And and Scott Bauer was a help in that as well, because most of the agencies are, quite frankly, just crappy to try to deal with. And they're so egocentric, I can't even go on and on and on. But anyway, so that's a good deal. And my concerns were what James brought up was,
Yeah.
Cross connection.
yeah, that, and then everybody's gonna have to have a generator. Nobody in California who's cool wants to have generators and
Well,
fuel.
if you have a pumper truck, you're not gonna, and they can hook up with a pumper truck, you won't need.
Well, there you go. I mean, how many pumper trucks do you have? But I'm just saying, anyway, those things are part of the process. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. And also, taking the water to up to the reservation is a good idea.
And they have every
Okay?
right to
And
ask.
if people in West Haven don't want to grow, they can pass ordinances, MOUs, CCNRs. That's not an issue, although they try to make it an issue. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay, Director.
Sorry
Mado.
about that.
Well, and that's exactly why I started out by
And the
saying that.
but the water's going. And we worked, Director Couch is on that committee now. I was on that committee for many years. We worked and worked and worked, and what we need to do, we've got immense amount of water that we need to do something with to protect that water right. And we want that water to go all over the county. We want it to go down to,
Lolita, as you mentioned.
as far as we can take it, everywhere we can take it, okay?
Yeah.
Not trying to disrespect the folks up there, but I guarantee you, the feller that runs the water system in West Haven, he'll tell you flat out, if that goes through her, I'm gonna put a damn, what is it, a lateral? I'm gonna put a lateral in.
Yeah, actually,
Just saying, just
that's,
saying.
that's Paul Rosenblatt, and he's
And when
adamantly,
it's-
he's adamantly
Anyway,
opposed. He's
anyway.
adamantly opposed to the pipeline, as is their board of directors, and I'm just sharing that
Well,
information
that's
with
fine,
you.
That's fine.
Um,
But it's going, and believe me, all the people that object to it will have an opportunity to hook up to it, and someday they may decide to put their lateral in. And Trinidad, I'm gonna play Nostradamus here, folks. Once that water's at the Cherry Heights, and a few years down the line, Trinidad's gonna go, by God, we want that water, and it's gonna cost them 100 times more than if they plug into it now. But that's their choice.
No, I appreciate your perspective. And that's why I kept my mouth shut when you were speaking, because I didn't want to countermand anything you had to say.
There's no problem with
But I
that.
appreciate you want to have the back and forth, and
We-
so be it,
we-
Dennis.
We all have our perspectives on it.
Supervisor Madrone, you're absolutely great. Thanks for hanging with us until this, how do I say, extreme end of this long meeting. I really appreciate your being here and listening and so we say being concerned and being a part of what we're trying to do to run this community right. So thank you so much. If there's no other comment, I'll call for the motion to adjourn the meeting. Adjourn.
Only a 3 hour. Oh,
Lost a bet with my wife.
it made up for not meeting in January.
Well, I guess we did a couple times over.